80% of U.S. voters across party lines support expanding Social Security. Trump supported Israel's annexation plan in secret letter. CIA blatantly violated rights of journalists and lawyers visiting Assange. India's ruling party with no Muslim legislator in parliament, a matter of serious concern. U.S. will not return Afghan funds. Need stress to explore potential of halal food exports in global markets. From our Chicago studios, this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I'm Samana Siddiqui. Our top story tonight. On Monday, Data for Progress highlighted polling showing that about 80% of U.S. voters across partisan divides support boosting Social Security benefits. Meanwhile, progressive lawmakers renewed calls for protecting Social Security from GOP attacks. The Old Age Survivors and Disability Insurance Program makes monthly income available to insured workers and their families at retirement, death, or disability, according to a recent Social Security Administration report. The program traces back to the Social Security Act, signed into law in 1935 by then U.S. President Franklin D. Roosevelt. The Congressional Progressive Caucus warned the program, which marks its 87th anniversary this month, is under attack from Republicans, despite its popularity among voters. Former President Donald Trump sent a secret letter to ex-Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu authorizing his plan to annex Palestinian territories. The Jerusalem Post reports the three-page letter was dated January 26, 2020. It read, Israel would be able to extend sovereignty to parts of the West Bank if Netanyahu agreed to a Palestinian state in the remaining territory. Netanyahu received the letter just 2 days before Trump announced his deal of the century to solve the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. That plan was strongly rejected by the Palestinians. Peace talks between the Palestinians and Israel collapsed in 2014. This was due to Tel Aviv's refusal to release Palestinian detainees and stop settlement building. Donald Trump's lawyers asked computer experts to copy sensitive data from Georgia election systems. It was part of a broad and organized effort to access voting equipment in multiple states, the Washington Post reports. Emails and other records obtained by the Post show lawyers asked forensic data from Sullivan Strickler of Atlanta to access election systems in at least 3 key states. Attorneys for voting security activists and Georgia voters said the documents confirmed the state's election system had been copied. Attorney Sidney Powell sent a team to Michigan to copy a rural county's election data, documents show. Voting systems in the Detroit area, Nevada, and Coffee County, Georgia region were also compromised. On Monday, U.S. lawyers and journalists who visited WikiLeaks publisher Julian Assange during his exile in London filed suit against the CIA. Former CIA Director Mike Pompeo, a CIA-linked Spanish security firm, and its CEO also were named in the suit. The lawsuit filed in the Southern District of New York alleges unconstitutional searches and seizures of their electronic devices. Lead plaintiff's counsel Richard E. Roth explained the lawsuit is seeking damages and a return of all this information. The lawsuit alleges that information was improperly gathered during visits to Assange while he was living under the protection of Ecuador's government from 2012 to 2019. A year after the Taliban seized control of Afghanistan's government, the Biden administration said it would not return the $7 billion in Afghan central bank assets. The U.S. government seized the money earlier this year, despite pleas from human rights groups and economists to help pull the impoverished country out of its economic crisis. U.S. envoy Tom Wolfe told the Wall Street Journal on Monday that talks between the White House and the Taliban about the release of at least half the funds have ended. This comes on the heels of a U.S. drone strike which killed al-Qaeda leader Ayman al-Zawahiri. U.S. officials say al-Zawahiri's location near a Taliban official's home shows officials will not manage assets responsibly. On Saturday, the government of Indian-Administered Jammu and Kashmir sacked 2 university professors and 2 officials accused of involvement in secessionist activities. Their activities came under the notice of law enforcement and intelligence agencies. They have been found involved in activities prejudicial to the security interests of the state, a government statement read. A total of 16 Kashmiri Muslim employees have been sacked since August 5, 2019. That was when the Hindu nationalist Indian government scrapped the Muslim-majority region's autonomous status. Majid Hussain Qadri, assistant professor of management studies at Kashmir University in Srinagar, was one of those sacked. The government said Qadri has a long association with terror organizations including Lashkar-e-Taiba. He had been jailed in June 2004 under India's Public Safety Act. India's ruling party has no Muslim legislator, and experts have raised concerns. Details after the break, so stay tuned, and we'll be right back after these messages.
If I could be you, and you could be me for just 1 hour. If we could find a way to get inside each other's minds. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes. Well, before you abuse, criticize, and accuse. Walk a mile in my shoes.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
Despite the development of a COVID-19 vaccine, millions around the world will not have access. We need a vaccine that's free and available to everyone, everywhere. It's time for a people's vaccine.
Assalamu alaikum! Open up your eyes.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, it's your brother Zain Bika from South Africa. One of the first educational programs ever produced for Muslim children was the ever-popular Adam's World series. The colorful and comical Muslim puppets stole the heart of a generation. Sound Vision will be releasing brand new episodes of Adam's World with the launch of a Adam's World app. Subscribers will enjoy new Adam's World episodes as they are released, as well as all the classic episodes of Adam's World. So visit adamsworldapp.com now to learn more, subscribe, and enjoy new adventures of Adam and his friends. And let's keep helping tomorrow's Muslims today. Assalamu alaikum.
It's Adam's World. Believe me, there's a lot to see. Bismillah. Let's explore.
To stop this genocide, we need your help.
Welcome back. Political analysts and experts have raised concerns about the shrinking representation of Muslims in India's mainstream politics. With the July resignation of former Minority Affairs Minister Mukhtar Abbas Naqvi, there is no Muslim representation in the 77-member Union Council of Ministers. The council is led by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. India is home to 204 million Muslims, or 14% of the total population. The ruling Bharatiya Janata Party has 303 ministers of parliament in the Lok Sabha, or lower house, but it doesn't have a single Muslim member. Naqvi resigned in early July as a member of the upper house. The ruling party has no Muslim legislators in parliament and government. On Sunday, the UN's human rights chief arrived in Bangladesh on a 4-day visit to assess the state of human rights and monitor the plight of the country's persecuted Rohingya community. Bangladesh's Foreign Minister A.K. Abdul Momen received Michelle Bachelet in the capital Dhaka. This is the first official tour of any UN rights chief to Bangladesh, a nation of more than 165 million people. During the visit, Bachelet will meet Bangladeshi Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, her cabinet, and civil society members. She will also meet with the National Human Rights Commission in Bangladesh, youth members, and Rohingya refugees in the border district of Cox's Bazar. Qatar has pledged to rebuild houses destroyed in Israel's latest assault on Gaza, Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh said on Friday. The leader of Hamas, which rules Gaza, expressed his deep appreciation to the Emir, government, and people of Qatar, a statement said. At least 18 residential units were destroyed, 71 severely damaged, and over 1,600 partially damaged in 3 days of Israeli attacks last week, Gaza's Public Works and Housing Ministry said. Israel's assault has killed 49 people, including 17 children, and injured over 300 others. A former UK Labour deputy leader of Newcastle City Council has been suspended from the party for a year after being found guilty of Islamophobia. Joyce McCarty faced a probe into claims she made in a text message of a Muslim plot that ousted her ally and former leader Nick Forbes. McCarty, who was re-elected in May, will sit as an independent. The Newcastle Labour Party said it condemns any act of hate crime and will call out any such behaviour when seen. The Sahel region, stretching across Africa from Senegal to Djibouti, has become a hotbed of terror groups in the past decade. The conflict-ridden belt connects Africa's Atlantic coast eastward through Senegal, Mauritania, Mali, and Nigeria, among other countries. Al-Qaeda and ISIS-affiliated groups carry out attacks, killing a large number of civilians every year in the Liptako-Gourma region of Sahel. These terror groups generate revenue from drug and fuel smuggling. Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso are considered to be among the poorest countries in the world. They are unable to allocate sufficient resources to their armies to fight terrorist groups. Halal food exports in global markets, currently at $2 trillion, are expected to reach $3 trillion in the next 5 years. The corporate sector must fully exploit its potential, industry experts say. Meher Kashif Yunus is former vice president of the Lahore Chamber of Commerce and Industry in Pakistan. Yunus was speaking to a delegation of halal food exporters in the country on Sunday. He said there were enormous opportunities for cooperation in the halal food market between Pakistan and Malaysia specifically. Malaysia has an extensive network of value-added industry and multinational companies that could help Pakistan connect with the global supply chain, he said. Traditionally, halal food includes meat, poultry, seafood, fruits and vegetables, dairy products, grains, oil, fats, waxes, and confectionaries. Coming up next after the break is our in-depth analysis segment, so stay tuned and we'll be right back after these messages.
If I could be you, and you could be me for just 1 hour, walk a mile in my shoes, walk a mile in my shoes.
I am what hunger looks like in America. I am an 8-year-old girl who's not excited for the last day of school. Because this may be the last time I'll have lunch. Till September.
I am a single father of 2 who works 3 part-time jobs, and that's still not enough to put food on the table.
I was created by artificial intelligence from faces of the 1 in 8 Americans who struggle with hunger.
Feeding America, 200 food banks strong.
Despite the development of a COVID-19 vaccine, millions around the world will not have access. We need a vaccine that's free and available to everyone, everywhere. It's time for a people's vaccine.
Dad, they took over my bedroom. Come on, come on. Okay, Dad. 1, 2, 3. Dad! You saved me. Dad?
Are you okay?
I'm fine, dear.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
We are Justice for All. Headquartered in the heart of downtown Chicago, Justice for All is a global humanitarian initiative dedicated to raising awareness for human rights concerns impacting vulnerable minority groups. Our diverse team of staff and volunteers, led by Imam Malik Mujahid, work tirelessly to help Justice for All achieve their goals. We promote policies that protect religious freedom, address the root causes of mass displacement, and recognize the plight of refugees and forced migrants. Together, we can continue to stand up for justice. Justice for all.
Welcome back. It's time for our in-depth analysis segment. Let's watch.
Thank you, Samana. Someone is suing CIA finally and not only CIA, but its former director Pompeo. And the reason is they were spying on American journalists and lawyers who were meeting Julian Assange. And and it happened and under US laws, and Julian Assange is the one who were being sought after by American government for violating Espionage Act. I wonder if it is the same one which President Trump is accused of violating. But we will discuss all of that, and we have with us Kevin Gosztola. Welcome to Muslim Network TV.
Hey, thank you. It's good to talk with you.
Kevin is a journalist and author known for his work on whistleblower cases, WikiLeaks, and national security and civil liberties. He is managing editor of Shadow Proof. Tell us, what is this lawsuit about?
Yeah, so this was filed by attorneys representing these lawyers and a couple journalists who have visited Julian Assange. Your viewers might remember that Julian Assange, before he was taken to prison by British police, was living inside the Ecuador embassy in London. He lived there under political asylum from 2012 to 2019. And beginning in January 2017, this private security company known as Undercover Global, or UC Global, was involved in doing embassy security, hired by Ecuador to do embassy security. That's fairly standard, but their role morphed into a security operation that was being performed against Julian Assange, targeting him, his family, and doing this, they allege, on behalf of the CIA. We have confirmed that U.S. intelligence was getting access to audio and video. There are more details to come and be learned about the exact role of the CIA, but we also have other reporting outside of this lawsuit from Yahoo News last year that said that Mike Pompeo, when he was CIA director, was involved in drafting plans to kidnap or kill the WikiLeaks founder, and potentially, even the kidnapping. When we say kidnapping, we're talking about rendition. We're talking about putting him on a plane, bringing him to the U.S. In complete violation of his rights. And so that's what this lawsuit is about. It's about challenging the systematic violation of the rights of people who were visiting Assange when he came there, challenging the more than 100 U.S. citizens who visited Assange while he was living in the embassy, and the CIA was engaged in this spying.
So, well, that's what CIA does, right? CIA spies on people. So what law is violated?
The law of the Constitution of U.S. citizens having Fourth Amendment rights. And the very fact of the matter is that as far afield as everything is, and as captured as the courts are, and as hard as it is for people to get justice because national security agencies are able to prevent the judges from ruling against them, this is an issue of whether or not somebody who has been accused of violating the Espionage Act, Julian Assange, can even get a fair trial if he's brought to the United States, because it has been proven through records that have been obtained by his attorneys from whistleblowers who worked for this private security company that was in some way helping the CIA collect information on Assange. It's been proven that they were systematically violating the rights of journalists and attorneys by taking their phones, taking their computers, taking their electronics, opening them up, copying them, putting them in their databases, putting dossiers together. This is the kind of conduct that we used to think was really, really bad back in the 1970s, late 1960s, the kind of COINTELPRO style creation of files on people, not to further any particular criminal investigation, but so the CIA could track the movements of associates of an individual like Assange.
Now, many Muslims, when they came from overseas, on the border or the airport, their electronics are taken and searched forcefully and copied. I don't know what they do with those devices. And when lawsuits are filed, they say, well, border actually does not count at the United States, so you do not have the constitutional protection. Don't you think they will say the same thing because this happened in UK?
Oh, so you don't cease to be an American when you travel. So I think that what's wrong here is the injustice of telling any Muslim Americans that they cannot have privacy rights when they travel, that if they come to the airport, they're supposed to be subject to suspicionless searches, that they're supposed to hand over their computers, their hard drives, any sort of technology that they have on their person, and allow agents to put them on file and treat them as if they're criminals. This happens to journalists as well. Often there have been journalists who go to war zones and cover if they've interviewed people who are involved in any militant groups who might be fighting on the battlefield. Then they come back home. If they go to places in Central America or other areas in which the U.S. has operations and they're meddling, they may want to interrogate. They might want to question these journalists and get them to talk about their sources, and they use what you've just described. I mean, it's sort of similar, but it's also different because these individuals who are U.S. citizens have no relation to what's going on in the embassy. Julian Assange was a U.S. target of a CIA operation, and they're basically the collateral damage. And these U.S. citizens who are visiting, whether they're attorneys or some of them were celebrities, these people who are going into this embassy, the other thing to say is that embassy is a diplomatic outpost that should not be a target of CIA operations. They're violating Ecuador's embassy by perpetrating this operation against Ecuador.
Now tell me this, Spanish Jack is pretty much in the news. Everybody is telling her, from Washington Post to CNN to New York Times, what is in it. And there are multi-level of secrecy. And the top level of secrecy there is turn out about more than 1 million people are cleared to see the top secret document. So because President Trump took some of those documents with him, and that's big thing is being discussed. Did things which are revealed by Sanjay, are these top secret, classified? Is he accused of being in violation of what President Trump is being accused of?
Yeah, Assange faces charges, but it's different. It's much different than Donald Trump. Although it's the same law, it's a very different story. When they accuse Julian Assange of being a criminal in violation of the Espionage Act, they're going after somebody who engaged in journalism and published documents that were provided to him by a source. And they're targeting the fact that documents made it into the hands of media organizations like the New York Times and The Guardian, who exposed the nature of U.S. wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, the way that the U.S. was interfering in efforts to obtain justice for people who were subject to torture by the CIA and renditions. And there are all sorts of other examples of injustice that were exposed by those document releases. And this is very clearly a case that is in retaliation for Julian Assange and WikiLeaks. And then Chelsea Manning was the source for bringing attention to what the U.S. was doing globally. When you look at Donald Trump, we don't have any idea what's in those documents. We've got some unnamed anonymous sources who say maybe it was nuclear weapons. We have the warrant that says President of France. One says it's Roger Stone's documents for his pardon. They mentioned that different sets were top secret, some were secret. We're led to believe they're sensitive, and I have no reason to doubt that there were sensitive documents in his possession. But he took them in boxes to Mar-a-Lago. and they sat there on his estate. And we don't know anything about them. There's no whistleblowing. There's nothing of public interest value. And those records are supposed to be in the National Archives for scholars and academics and members of the public to see later, just like what President Barack Obama did. He took over 30 million documents that are going to, over the course of the next 10 to 20 years and longer, be made available to academics and historians to learn about what he was doing, because they're no longer sensitive national documents.
Given, Julian Assange is not even an American citizen, how come he's subject to American laws of espionage?
That's a good question. I would like the Justice Department to explain why they are continuing to prosecute somebody who should not be expected to follow a U.S. law. It's a very dangerous development to say that the U.S. Justice Department is going to go outside of U.S. territory and enforce a U.S. law against somebody who is from Australia. Julian Assange is from Australia. He lived in the UK, but he's never been in the United States. He spent maybe a couple days at a time in the US. He traveled here a few times, but he's never been here very long. He has no connection to the United States. And yet the Justice Department is pushing forward with enforcing a US law that I don't think anybody outside the United States should have to follow or obey.
Kevin, is there a possibility that this lawsuit, if it goes through, his Julian Assange could still be kept there because at the length of the case, or if he wins the case, he doesn't have to come here?
So the lawsuit is separate from a battle that is unfolding in the United Kingdom over extradition. He has two appeals that are before a British court, and those will be heard at some point this year. And then this case, filed on behalf of 4 people, 2 attorneys, 2 journalists, will be in the Southern District of New York. And there they'll argue that Mike Pompeo, in his individual capacity, and the CIA violated the rights of them, and that they'll seek damages. And this decision may play a role in discouraging the Justice Department and getting them to drop charges against Julian Assange. We don't know. It depends on the outcome. It depends on what the Justice Department says. Now, the judge, not Justice Department, but it depends on what a judge says. The judge may look at it and say, these are state secrets. This has happened to a lot of people, including Muslim Americans, who have accused the FBI and other agencies of violating their rights systematically since the war on terrorism was kicked off after the September 11th attacks. So we have a lot to see happen here in the future. But for now, we've started the ball rolling of putting this challenge forward that I think is crucial in defending people's privacy rights.
Thank you so much. Kevin Gosztola is a journalist, author, is known for his work on whistleblower cases, and he's managing editor of Shadowproof. Thank you so much. Back to you, Samana.
Thank you. That's all from our Chicago studios tonight. Thank you for tuning in. You can find previous episodes and more on our YouTube or Facebook. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV or visit muslimnetwork.tv. Salam and good night.